the fourth day of the new year and trends already beginning to take form. And here to tell us about all of them is president and founder of Educational Connections, Ann Dolan. Hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great, thanks.
So when you think trends, you're thinking social media, you're thinking, pop culture, but there's trends in education that we need to discuss.
There are, yes.
So tell me, what were some of the trends in 2015 and what are we looking forward to for 2016?
Well, in 2015, we saw a big reduction in standardized testing, which, hallelujah, every parent and child was thrilled about, and teachers too. For example, in Fairfax County, we saw that kids in elementary and middle school used to take 22 standardized tests at the end of the year, these big tests, and now they're only taking 17. So we expect that trend to continue into this new year too.
And that's a good thing, right? Because you don't want to be bogged down with tests.
Yeah.
How is that different from, say, when you and I were kids? Because I don't remember taking all those tests.
We didn't have standardized tests, and if we did, it was every few years. But now, for example, third graders are taking a big end-of-year test that they're preparing many months for in reading, math, science, and social studies, and that's just too much. And so people around the country have really spoken out, and states have listened.
So what's the thought process with these tests? Like the big tests, like you were saying, the third graders were having to do, and now fifth graders going into junior high school to be sixth graders, or middle school as they call it now.
Yeah, right, middle school.
What is the benefit of these tests?
Well, through the Bush administration and No Child Left Behind, we really wanted to assess the kids, see how we were doing, and really be able to remedy any issues along the way so that kids would be performing better. But we found that instead what happened is that teachers were really teaching to the test because, of course, they wanted their students to do well. But now we're seeing a trend toward Common Core, and you may have heard about it. And Common Core is a new way of teaching kids. Instead of just regurgitating information, we're trying to teach them to think analytically and deeply, and there are new standardized tests that go along with the Common Core movement. Every state has adopted it except for 4, and Virginia is one of them. So here in our area, Maryland has Common Core, DC, but not Virginia. And
so give me an example of Common Core.
Sure. Oh my gosh, parents are flummoxed by Common Core, I have to tell you. Common Core in math, for example, in elementary school, it's less about multiplying numbers, for example. You're not going to see 43 times 7, but instead you'll see lots of word problems. So kids are coming home with their homework, and parents don't really know how exactly to help them.
Right here, this is why I'm a broadcaster. You got a train leaving the East Coast at 50 miles an hour, train leaving the West Coast at 50. I'm just like, please don't be on the same track.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And so parents aren't accustomed to these new ways of teaching, and they find they really can't help their kids. It's not the same as when they learned math. And so it's a huge change for families, especially in Maryland and DC.
But you're kind of seeing that in the real world now. Because, remember as a kid, we're like, I'm never going to use this in the real world, but you do. You need to know the percentage that you're saving on a sale. I have to relate it to something I know.
Right, exactly.
I have to keep it real. But how much am I saving on this dress or these shoes? And that's when these little word problems do come into play.
They do, for sure. And we're also seeing lots of technology in the classroom. And this is a new trend called blended learning. And, when we went to school, it was kind of like a teacher in the front of the classroom, lecturing, kind of old school.
There was only one room.
There was only one room, and everybody pretty much did the same thing. And so the other end of the spectrum is just a child and a computer, and a child learning from the computer. But blended learning really takes best of both worlds. And so in a blended learning classroom, you're going to see a lot of kids learning online in small groups. So the teacher instead can work with a smaller group of, say, 5, 6 kids, while other students are doing other things in their small group, mostly online.
Which I think is what's missing, because you get this huge class, and you are going to have a couple of kids who, and whether it's reading or writing or, arithmetic, whatever it is, are going to fall a little bit behind. They just need a little extra attention. Doesn't mean anything is wrong. They just need a little extra help, and now you'll be able to do that if you have a smaller group of kids to work with.
You can, and you can assess them differently too. And now, when we were kids, we took a test and we waited a few days to get our grade back, but now tests are in real time. And kids take tests online, they get their score back, they find where they need improvement, and the software will reteach them that skill, and then they'll retake the test, even say 20, half hour, 30 minutes later. So it's very different how we're approaching education.
So when you talk about tests, let me ask you, SATs. parties.
Yeah.
Every junior in high school is like, oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah.
So how is that changing for 2016?
Oh my gosh, this has been a huge change. You know, again, the SAT really had a big stronghold when kids were applying to college in the Mid-Atlantic area, our DC area. Most students here took the SAT. But in 2011, nationwide, the ACT actually overtook the SAT, and more kids took the ACT than the SAT. And we're seeing that trend continue, namely because the SAT has changed their format, and so kids are really up in a tizzy. They're very worried about this new format, which they're rolling out in March. And because of that, kids are jumping ship, and they're saying, you know, there are so many unknowns about this new test, I'm going to just study for the ACT.
Right.
So we're seeing in this area a huge shift towards kids just taking the ACT. Every college in America accepts it.
Really?
Yes.
Do you still get like a couple hundred points for writing your name correctly on the paper?
You do, actually.
See? I'm telling you, this is why I'm a broadcaster. That's the only thing that saved me. All right, Ann Dolan, thank you so much for joining us today. That's interesting, you know, the changes that's going on, and for parents too.
Oh, yes, for parents.
All right, well, thank you so much. And stay with us because we will have more of Let's Talk Live coming up after the break.